As the late afternoon sun bathed the winding roads of suburban Virginia, Special Agent Simone Carter of the FBI looked forward to a peaceful evening with her family. Her day had been filled with meetings and paperwork, but the promise of her husband's famous lasagna and her daughter's cheerful stories about school made her smile at tranquility was abruptly shattered when she was pulled over by a police officer. What began as a routine traffic stop quickly escalated into a tense confrontation. Despite Simone's calm and professional demeanor, the officer, driven by prejudice, treated her with unwarranted hostility. The situation reached a peak when she was handcuffed, only for the truth to come to light when another officer arrived. Sergeant Thompson, recognizing the severity of the mistake, intervened and apologized for the wrongful treatment Simone endured. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the roadside encounter marked not just the end of her evening plans, but the start of a story that would test her resolve and challenge deep-seated biases. This incident was more than a personal ordeal. It was a reflection of broader issues that needed to be addressed. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. The late afternoon sun cast long, stretching shadows across the winding roads of suburban Virginia, painting the landscape in a warm, golden hue. Special Agent Simone Carter of the FBI glanced at her watch, a satisfied smile spreading across her face as she noted the time. She would be home in time for dinner with her family, a comforting thought after a long and demanding day at the bureau. The day had been filled with endless meetings, stacks of paperwork, and the usual whirlwind of bureaucratic responsibilities. Yet the anticipation of her husband's renowned lasagna and her daughter's enthusiastic recounting of her day at school provided a bright spot in her evening. Simone drove her sleek, black sedan along the familiar streets, the car's quiet hum a soothing backdrop to her thoughts. Her mind drifted to the weekend ahead, and she envisioned finally starting the garden project they had been eagerly planning for months. The thought of vibrant flowers blooming and neatly trimmed shrubs adorning their modest home filled her with a sense of contentment and excitement. As she daydreamed about the possibilities, she almost missed the sudden flash of red and blue lights reflecting off her rearview mirror. Her brow furrowed in confusion as she checked her speedometer, reassured that she had not been speeding. With a resigned sigh, she signaled and carefully maneuvered her car to the shoulder of the road. The sudden interruption to her peaceful drive triggered her instincts as she mentally prepared herself for a routine traffic stop, reminding herself to remain calm and professional. Experience had taught her that such stops were often mundane and best handled with cooperation and patience. The sound of heavy boots crunching on gravel grew louder, signaling the officer's approach. Simone watched in her side mirror as a tall, broad-shouldered officer came into view. His face was partially hidden beneath the brim of his hat, but she could see his jaw set in a firm, unyielding expression. "License and registration?" Please, the officer's voice was curt and commanding, lacking any hint of warmth or politeness. Simone nodded, her movements measured and deliberate as she reached for her purse. "Of course, officer." "May I ask why I've been pulled over?" she inquired, her tone respectful but tinged with a hint of concern. The officer's posture became more rigid, his eyes narrowing as he replied sharply, "I'll ask the questions here, Ma. I am. Your license and registration now." Simone's eyebrows lifted in surprise at his brusque manner, but she complied, handing over the requested documents. As the officer scrutinized them with a focused gaze, Simone decided to seek clarification once more. "Officer, I'm certain I wasn't speeding. Could you please explain the reason for this stop?" she asked, trying to maintain a calm and composed demeanor. The officer's gaze snapped up from the documents, his eyes meeting hers with a steely intensity. "Step out of the vehicle, Mom." Simone felt a surge of unease churn in her stomach. This was not how a routine traffic stop was supposed to unfold. The escalation in the officer's tone and his sudden command were troubling, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Officer, I'm having trouble understanding the situation here. I've already provided all the documentation you requested. Unless you can provide me with a specific, valid reason, I don't see why I should be required to exit my vehicle. The officer's hand moved with a deliberate and calculated motion to rest on the butt of his holstered weapon, a subtle yet unmistakable gesture that Simone, with her extensive training, immediately noticed. His stance was rigid and authoritative as he said, "I'm not going to ask you again. Step out of the vehicle now." As the gravity of the situation began to escalate rapidly, Simone's mind raced. In a moment of heightened awareness, she made a swift decision. Carefully and deliberately, she reached toward the inner pocket of her blazer where her FBI credentials were secured. Her voice remained steady but tinged with urgency. "Officer, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. I'm Special Agent Simone Carter with the FBI. I'm about to retrieve my badge to verify my identity, all right." The officer's reaction was immediate and intense. Without hesitation, he drew his weapon, leveling it directly at Simone. His voice was sharp and commanding. "Hands where I can see them. Do not reach for anything." Simone's heart pounded in her chest, but her years of rigorous training allowed her to maintain a calm exterior. She raised her hands slowly, palms facing outward, in a gesture of compliance and peace. "Officer, please, you need to understand that I am a federal agent. My credentials are in my jacket. I am not a threat." "Get out of the car now," the officer ordered, his weapon steady and unyielding. Simone recognized the urgent need to de-escalate the situation. With deliberate care, she opened the car door and stepped out onto the shoulder of the road. The cool evening air seemed to amplify the tension that crackled between them. "Turn around and place your hands on the vehicle," the officer commanded. Simone complied, her mind racing with confusion and concern. This was no ordinary misunderstanding. Something about this encounter felt deeply unsettling. As she felt the officer's rough hands patting her down, she made one last attempt to clarify the situation. "Officer, my name is Special Agent Simone Carter. I am assigned to the FBI field office in Washington, D.C. If you allow me to show you my credentials, we can resolve this issue swiftly." In response, the officer grabbed her wrists and wrenched them behind her back. Simone heard the unmistakable click of handcuffs being fastened around her wrists. "You have the right to remain silent," he began reciting the Miranda rights with a tone that left no room for argument. Simone's initial shock quickly transformed into frustration and anger. "This is unacceptable," she said, her voice firm and resolute. "I demand to speak to your supervisor immediately. You are making a grave mistake." The officer paid no heed to her protests, his focus unwavering as he continued to tighten the handcuffs around Simone's wrists. She winced in discomfort as the cold, unyielding metal bit into her skin. Despite her best efforts to maintain composure, the sheer injustice of the situation fueled a rising anger within her. Each passing second seemed to deepen her frustration, making it harder to remain calm. As the officer began to lead her towards his patrol car, a voice echoed from down the road, breaking through the mounting tension. "Mike, what's going on here?" Both Simone and the officer turned their attention to see another patrol car approaching from behind. An older officer, his hair touched with gray at the temples and a look of concern etched on his face, stepped out and made his way over. Sergeant Thompson, the younger officer, acknowledged, his grip on Simone's arm loosening ever so slightly. "I've got a suspect here who claims to be with the FBI. She refused to comply with my orders and made a suspicious movement." Sergeant Thompson scrutinized the scene with the practiced eye of someone well-versed in the complexities of police work. His gaze shifted from his subordinate to Simone, assessing the situation with measured professionalism. "And did you verify her claim, Officer Brennan?" Officer Brennan hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "She was reaching for something, sir. I couldn't afford to take the risk." Take this opportunity to clarify," Sergeant Thompson instructed Simone. If you check the inner pocket of my blazer, you'll find my FBI credentials. This whole situation is a misunderstanding that's escalated unnecessarily." Sergeant Thompson's demeanor was calm but authoritative as he carefully reached into Simone's jacket, retrieving her badge and identification. His eyes widened in recognition as he examined the credentials, a mixture of surprise and dismay crossing his features. "Oh Christ," he muttered under his breath. Turning to Officer Brennan, his expression now a blend of disappointment and frustration, he commanded, "Uncuff her immediately." As Officer Brennan fumbled with the handcuffs, Sergeant Thompson turned his attention back to Simone. "Agent Carter, I am profoundly sorry for the distress this incident has caused. Please allow me to explain what happened." Simone rubbed her sore wrists as the handcuffs were removed, her mind racing with the implications of the incident. While she was relieved to be freed, she knew this was far from over. The situation demanded a thorough explanation and resolution. "I think that's an excellent idea," Sergeant Simone responded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline still surging through her veins. "We have much to discuss." If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. As the sun began its descent, casting a warm orange glow over the scene, Simone realized her quiet evening at home was now a distant prospect. This traffic stop triggered a series of events that promised to have significant repercussions for everyone involved. Unbeknownst to her, this was merely the beginning of a story that would challenge her convictions, test her resolve, and ultimately bring about profound changes in her community and beyond. As Simone Carter stood on the side of the road, waiting for Sergeant Thompson to finish his hushed conversation with Officer Brennan, her thoughts drifted back to the journey that had brought her to this very moment. The cool evening breeze gently rustled the leaves, carrying with it the familiar scent of freshly cut grass, which nostalgically reminded her of summers long past in her hometown of Charleston, South Carolina. These sensory details evoked a sense of longing for her roots and the simplicity of her childhood. Simone had always been driven, a trait evident from her early years. Growing up as the daughter of a high school history teacher and a civil rights attorney, she was immersed in an environment that deeply valued education, justice, and public service. Her parents, William and Evelyn Carter, had cultivated a home where discussions about current events, societal challenges, and the ongoing fight for equality were commonplace. Around the family dinner table, Simone and her siblings would engage in spirited debates, absorbing the values of critical thinking and civic responsibility. It was in these formative moments that Simone first envisioned a career in law enforcement. She saw it not just as a job, but as a vocation through which she could effect meaningful change in her community. Initially, Simone's choice was met with skepticism by her parents. William and Evelyn were acutely aware of the significant obstacles their daughter would face, especially as a black woman entering a profession historically dominated by white men. They worried about the barriers, both overt and subtle, that could hinder her progress. Yet Simone's resolve was steadfast. She was determined to overcome these challenges, driven by an unwavering commitment to her goals. As she began to make strides in her career, her parents' concerns gradually gave way to immense pride. They watched as their daughter not only pursued her dreams but excelled in ways that surpassed their expectations. Simone's academic achievements were nothing short of remarkable. She graduated at the top of her class in high school, earning accolades and recognition for her academic prowess. This excellence secured her a full scholarship to Howard University, where she pursued a double major in criminal justice and psychology. Her choice of majors reflected a deep-seated desire to comprehend not only the letter of the law, but also the intricate human dynamics that influence criminal behavior and law enforcement. During her junior year at Howard, Simone's path became more defined. An FBI recruiter visited the campus, and Simone was enthralled by the extensive and multifaceted work of the Bureau. The prospect of serving her country while tackling complex, high-stakes cases resonated profoundly with her sense of duty and intellectual curiosity. This opportunity seemed to align perfectly with her career aspirations. After graduating from Howard, Simone applied to the FBI Academy. The selection process was rigorous and demanding, designed to test candidates on physical, mental, and emotional levels. Simone approached each phase with a blend of grit and grace, her years of rigorous preparation coming to fruition. She navigated the challenges with remarkable skill, proving that her commitment and perseverance were not only sustained but were instrumental in her success. At the FBI's training facility at Quantico, Simone Carter quickly distinguished herself from her peers. Her remarkable analytical mind, meticulous attention to detail, and exceptional ability to think outside the box captured the attention of her instructors. She approached both the academic and physical aspects of her training with an unmatched fervor, setting new records in marksmanship and tactical problem-solving that continued to stand as benchmarks even years later. Her performance during this rigorous training period laid the foundation for a career marked by excellence and determination. Upon graduating from the academy, Simone was assigned to the FBI's field office in Detroit. This assignment was her initiation into the real-world complexities of law enforcement. It was in Detroit that she honed her skills across a diverse array of cases, ranging from intricate white-collar crimes to high-stakes counterterrorism operations. Her colleagues, both seasoned veterans and newer agents alike, quickly came to respect her for her sharp instincts and unwavering dedication to the pursuit of justice. Her ability to dissect complicated cases and her relentless work ethic set her apart in a demanding and high-pressure environment. One case in particular became a defining moment early in Simone's career. A sophisticated human trafficking ring was operating across state lines, preying on vulnerable young women. The scale and brutality of the operation posed a formidable challenge, but Simone's perseverance and innovative methods for gathering intelligence proved crucial in dismantling the network. Her approach was both strategic and empathetic, focusing on rescuing the victims and bringing the perpetrators to justice. The case attracted national attention, and Simone found herself thrust into the spotlight as a rising star within the Bureau, recognized for her exceptional contributions to law enforcement. However, the path to success was not without its obstacles. As Simone advanced through the ranks, she faced both subtle and overt forms of discrimination. Murmurs and whispers were suggesting that her rapid career progression was a result of affirmative action rather than her own merits. Despite these challenges, Simone refused to let such attitudes undermine her resolve. Instead, she channeled her frustration into a renewed commitment to excel, working even harder and more strategically to prove her capabilities and silence her critics. During this tumultuous period, Simone met Marcus, a pediatric surgeon with a sharp wit and a compassionate nature. Marcus provided a pillar of support amidst the demands and pressures of Simone's career. Their relationship was a perfect balance. His calm demeanor served as a counterbalance to her intense drive, and his unwavering optimism acted as a soothing balm for the darker aspects of her work. Together, they forged a partnership built on mutual respect, love, and understanding, navigating the challenges of their demanding professions while supporting each other through the highs and lows of their lives. 5 years into her career with the FBI, Simone and her husband Marcus welcomed their daughter, Zoe, into the world. The arrival of their child marked a profound shift in Simone's life and work. Motherhood infused her with a renewed sense of purpose, intensifying her drive to create a safer world not only for Zoe but for all children. Her dedication to her job became even more personal, as every case she tackled felt like a step toward a brighter future for her daughter and other young lives. Simone's exceptional performance and growing reputation soon led to a transfer to the FBI field office in Washington, D.C. This new role brought with it a host of new opportunities and challenges. She was now at the forefront of high-profile cases, many of which had significant political implications. Her skill in navigating complex situations with a blend of diplomacy and unwavering integrity earned her the respect and admiration of both her superiors and her peers. At 38, Simone had reached the pinnacle of her career. Recently promoted to supervisory special agent, she led a specialized team dedicated to addressing civil rights violations and hate crimes. The weight of her new responsibilities was significant, but she embraced the challenge with the same dedication that had marked her journey. Yet the irony of her current predicament was stark and painful. Here she was, handcuffed on the side of the road, a situation she strongly suspected was a result of racial profiling. This was a bitter irony for someone who had dedicated her life to fighting for justice and equality. As she observed Sergeant Thompson approaching, his expression a mix of concern and embarrassment, Simone took a deep breath to steady herself. Her thoughts turned to her parents, who had instilled in her the value of standing up for what was right, even when it was hard. They had taught her that true integrity meant holding firm to one's principles in the face of adversity. She also thought of Marcus and Zoe, who were at home, oblivious to the turmoil unfolding on this quiet suburban street. The image of her family waiting for her, safe and sound, served as a powerful reminder of why she had chosen this path. Simone's mind also drifted to the countless individuals she had sworn to protect and serve. Her commitment to her role extended beyond the boundaries of her job. It was a promise to safeguard the rights and dignity of every person, regardless of their race, color, or creed. This moment, though deeply challenging, was a test of the very principles she had vowed to uphold. Simone understood that what unfolded next would be pivotal. This moment was about more than just her ordeal. It was an opportunity to confront and address broader systemic issues that impacted countless individuals. As a Black woman, an FBI agent, and a mother, she carried the weight of responsibility heavily on her shoulders. Agent Carter Sergeant Thompson began, his tone laden with genuine remorse. "I deeply regret this situation. If you're amenable, I'd like to take you to the station so we can officially document this incident and initiate an internal review process immediately." Simone gave a nod, her mind already strategizing. This unfortunate incident had the potential to catalyze meaningful change, a moment to bridge the divide between law enforcement and the communities they are sworn to protect. Though the path ahead would be challenging, she knew that true progress was seldom easy. "I appreciate that," Sergeant Simone responded, her voice unwavering and professional. "It's essential that we address this matter comprehensively. However, before we proceed to the station, I need to make a call to my supervisor at the Bureau. This situation has broader implications that extend beyond your department." As Simone reached for her phone, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this juncture, from a young girl in Charleston with ambitious dreams to a supervisory special agent in the FBI. She had faced numerous challenges along the way, each one shaping her resilience and commitment. This incident, as uncomfortable as it was, represented yet another obstacle to tackle with renewed resolve and purpose. She dialed her supervisor's number, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on her. The ripple effects of this traffic stop were poised to extend far beyond this quiet Virginia street, influencing lives and institutions in ways yet to be fully understood. For Simone Carter, this was part of the ongoing quest for justice and equality, a mission that had defined her career and one she remained steadfast in pursuing. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Meanwhile, Sergeant Thompson continued to address Agent Carter, his demeanor composed but his concern evident. Officer Mike Brennan stood a few paces away, grappling with the gravity of his error. The crisp evening air offered little relief from the simmering heat of his shame and anxiety. He wondered how a routine traffic stop had spiraled into such a significant misjudgment. The reality of his mistake weighed heavily, leaving him to confront the consequences of his actions and the broader implications for his career and the community he served. Mike Brennan had always harbored a deep-seated ambition to become a police officer. Growing up in the tranquil confines of a small town in rural Virginia, he looked up to the local police officers who seemed to embody the very essence of community spirit. These officers, with their friendly greetings and ever-ready assistance, symbolized the ideal of what a supportive and protective community should be: dedicated guardians, resolute peacekeepers, and steadfast pillars of society. As the son of a factory worker and a waitress, Mike learned the significance of hard work and perseverance early on. His parents, Tom and Linda Brennan, faced numerous challenges to make ends meet, but they instilled in Mike the values of integrity and selfless service. Their resilience and ethical compass shaped Mike's aspirations and character from a young age, embedding in him a strong sense of duty and a desire to contribute positively to his community. During his high school years, Mike was an average student academically, but stood out in sports, particularly football. His coach, a former Marine, recognized Mike's potential and mentored him not only in athletic skills but also in discipline and teamwork. This coach's encouragement was pivotal, suggesting that Mike consider a career in law enforcement. The coach's faith in Mike's abilities helped him realize that he could channel his passion for serving others into a profession that aligned perfectly with his values. Upon graduating from high school, Mike took a practical step toward his dream by enrolling in the local community college. He chose to study criminal justice while simultaneously working part-time as a security guard. This dual approach allowed Mike to gain valuable first-hand experience in the field and solidify his understanding of law enforcement principles. His dedication to his studies and his job was unwavering, surprising even his parents with the intensity of his commitment. At 21, Mike took a significant leap forward by applying to the police academy. The selection process and training were grueling, presenting him with physical, mental, and emotional challenges unlike any he had encountered before. Despite the demanding nature of the academy, Mike thrived under pressure. His athleticism, combined with the discipline and focus he had developed over the years, propelled him to graduate near the top of his class. The accomplishment was a source of immense pride for Mike, marking the beginning of his long-awaited career in law enforcement. In the initial years of his service, Mike found the reality of his job to be as fulfilling as he had always envisioned. Patrolling the streets of his hometown, he built strong relationships with the community members, becoming a familiar and trusted presence. His genuine friendliness and sincere desire to help others earned him respect and affection from both his colleagues and the residents he served. Mike's early career was a testament to his dedication and the values he had upheld throughout his life. As time passed, Mike began to notice a series of troubling changes in his life. The opioid crisis, which had gradually been escalating, finally hit their small town with devastating force. The once serene streets and friendly faces that Mike had come to know were now marred by an increase in crime and drug-related incidents. The community's atmosphere, once filled with trust and camaraderie, had shifted. The same people who used to greet him with warm smiles now looked at him with growing suspicion or even outright hostility. The job that he had once embraced with enthusiasm and pride was beginning to feel increasingly stressful and adversarial. During this tumultuous period, Mike met Sarah, a kindergarten teacher with a heartwarming smile and an inherently kind nature. Their connection was immediate and intense. Sarah's infectious optimism provided a much-needed counterbalance to the growing cynicism Mike was experiencing at work. Their love blossomed quickly, and they married after just a year of dating. For Mike, Sarah became a beacon of hope and stability in what was rapidly becoming an uncertain and stormy world. The arrival of their son, Tommy, 2 years later brought Mike an immense sense of joy and renewed purpose. Holding his newborn child for the first time, Mike felt a profound shift in his sense of duty. No longer was he simply upholding abstract ideals of law and order. Now he was directly responsible for safeguarding a future for his son. This new role as a father gave him a powerful motivation to persevere through the challenges he faced. However, the responsibilities of fatherhood also introduced new pressures. The modest salary of a small-town police officer, barely sufficient to cover their basic needs, was stretched thin by the additional expenses of raising a child. Mike found himself frequently working overtime shifts to make ends meet. The long hours and relentless stress began to take a toll on both his marriage and his overall outlook on life. Amidst this growing strain, Mike made the difficult decision to apply for a position with the Fairfax County Police Department in suburban Virginia. The prospect of a move offered several advantages: better pay, more opportunities for career advancement, and a chance for a fresh start. While Sarah was initially hesitant about leaving their hometown and the life they had built there, she ultimately supported Mike's decision, hopeful that it might reignite his passion for police work and provide a better future for their family. The transition to Fairfax County, however, proved to be more challenging than Mike had anticipated. The diverse, bustling suburbs presented a stark contrast to the quiet, familiar environment of his small town. Mike found himself encountering situations he had never faced before, ranging from managing domestic disputes in affluent neighborhoods to navigating cultural misunderstandings with immigrant communities. His previous training had not fully prepared him for these complex and varied scenarios. As a result, Mike often felt overwhelmed and out of his depth. His confusion and discomfort sometimes led to defensiveness or overly aggressive responses in the line of duty, exacerbating the very issues he sought to address. His supervisors, recognizing the need for improvement in his approach, mandated additional training focused on community relations and de-escalation techniques. Despite this intervention, Mike struggled to shift his mindset and adapt to the new expectations. The recent surge of high-profile incidents of police brutality across the nation had compounded his feelings of being under siege. He was deeply troubled by the perception that the actions of a few rogue officers had unfairly tainted the reputation of all law enforcement professionals. The mounting public scrutiny and criticism created a pervasive sense of anxiety for Mike, making him increasingly fearful that even the smallest misstep could jeopardize his career. On the day of the traffic stop involving Agent Carter, Mike was particularly on edge. He had just come from a volatile domestic dispute where he had barely managed to defuse a potentially explosive situation. The stress of that encounter had left him frazzled, and his adrenaline was still surging when he initiated the traffic stop on the black sedan for a minor violation. His heightened state of alertness intensified his perception of the situation. The driver's calm and measured questioning of his actions felt like a direct challenge to his authority, exacerbating his sense of insecurity. When the driver reached for an object that was out of his view, all of Mike's fears and anxieties coalesced into a moment of sheer panic. His heightened vigilance and the residual stress from the earlier incident caused him to react impulsively, driven by a deep-seated anxiety that clouded his judgment. As he observed Sergeant Thompson conversing with Agent Carter, the gravity of his actions began to fully sink in. He realized that his fears had overridden his training, leading him to make a series of poor decisions. His judgment had been compromised by stress and unfounded assumptions, resulting in a serious misjudgment of a fellow law enforcement professional. In the process, he had become a threat to the very principles he had vowed to uphold, endangering an innocent citizen's safety and rights. Mike's mind raced with the potential fallout of his actions. The prospect of losing his job and facing legal repercussions loomed large. He worried about how he would provide for Sarah and Tommy and what his parents would think if they learned that the dream he had worked so hard to achieve was unraveling due to a series of misguided decisions made in a matter of minutes. The weight of the situation pressed heavily on him, leaving him to grapple with the profound implications of his lapse in judgment and the uncertain future that lay ahead. As Sergeant Thompson motioned for Mike to approach, he took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He was acutely aware that he was about to face a moment of intense scrutiny and consequence. He understood that this was the moment to confront the repercussions of his actions, no matter how daunting it felt. It was an ordeal that promised to be one of the most challenging he had ever encountered. Yet he recognized that facing this head-on was the only path to maintaining the integrity and principles that had guided him into this line of work in the first place. With each step feeling as though they were weighted with lead, Mike moved towards Agent Simone Carter and Sergeant Thompson. He was uncertain about what the immediate future held, but he understood that this pivotal encounter would significantly impact not only his career but his personal life as well. The gravity of the situation pressed heavily upon him. As he prepared to speak, Mike made a silent promise to himself he would learn from this lapse, strive to improve, and endeavor to uphold the values of his profession, values he still cherished deeply, despite the current turmoil. He knew that the upcoming conversation would be fraught with difficulty, but it was an essential part of a larger process of reckoning and potential change. The Fairfax County Police Department headquarters was abuzz with a palpable sense of tension as the details of the incident spread through the building. What had begun as a seemingly routine traffic stop had swiftly escalated into a situation with potentially profound and far-reaching consequences. In the conference room on the third floor, key figures assembled to address the unfolding crisis and its implications. Agent Simone Carter sat at one end of the long conference table, her posture rigid and her expression a blend of composure and resolve. Across from her was Officer Mike Brennan, whose face was a portrait of anxiety and remorse. Sergeant Thompson occupied a seat between them, his weathered features etched with concern. The group was further augmented by Captain Laura Harding, the head of Internal Affairs, and Deputy Chief Robert Malloy. As the door to the conference room closed with a muted thud, Deputy Chief Malloy cleared his throat, signaling the start of the proceedings. "Before we commence, I want to extend our deepest apologies, Agent Carter," he said, his voice carrying a tone of sincere regret. "What you experienced is entirely unacceptable and fundamentally contrary to the values and standards upheld by our department." Agent Carter nodded in acknowledgement, her voice steady and measured. "Thank you, Deputy Chief. I appreciate the apology, but I think it's important to recognize that apologies alone are insufficient. What occurred today is indicative of broader systemic issues that must be addressed." Captain Harding leaned forward, her gaze sweeping over each individual in the room. "Agent Carter is correct. This incident demands a comprehensive investigation, not only into Officer Brennan's actions but also into our existing policies, training protocols, and the overall culture within the department." All eyes in the room were fixed intently on Officer Brennan, who stood at the center of the gathering, his expression a mixture of dread and resignation. The gravity of the moment weighed heavily upon him, each breath a reminder of the profound impact his next words could have on his future and the broader implications for the community. As he prepared to speak, he felt a lump form in his throat, knowing that this was not merely about him but about the trust and integrity of the entire police force. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. "I realize now that I made an egregious error in judgment," Officer Brennan began, his voice quivering and barely audible. "My fears and preconceived notions clouded my ability to make sound decisions. I failed in upholding my responsibilities as a police officer, and I also failed in my duty as a person. I am fully prepared to face the consequences of my actions, whatever they may be." Simone's gaze was fixed on the young officer, her eyes searching for any hint of insincerity. What she saw instead was a genuine remorse reflected in his eyes, a look that spoke of a deep internal struggle and an earnest acknowledgement of his missteps. Despite the lingering anger she felt over the treatment she had received, her professional training and extensive experience allowed her to view the situation from a broader perspective. Officer Brennan Simone addressed him, causing him to look up with a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "I appreciate your willingness to confront the truth and admit your mistakes. What transpired today was indeed unacceptable, but I see it as an opportunity, a chance for growth, transformation, and a way to strengthen the relationship between law enforcement and the communities they are committed to serving. Deputy Chief Malloy, seated at the head of the table, nodded slowly in acknowledgement. "And what is your proposal, Agent Carter?" Simone took a moment to compose herself, drawing a deep breath before responding. "I propose that we collaborate on this matter, not just to address the specific incident involving Officer Brennan, but to develop a comprehensive program aimed at recognizing and preventing bias within the police force. My background as an FBI agent, coupled with my perspective as a Black woman, could offer valuable insights into this process." A hush fell over the room as the significance of Simone's proposal began to resonate with everyone present. Captain Harding, breaking the silence, voiced the first question. "That is a commendable offer, Agent Carter, but I must ask why, given everything you've endured, you wouldn't choose to file a formal complaint and distance yourself from the situation." Simone's gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of each present. "Because walking away would only perpetuate the cycle of mistrust and misunderstanding. I believe deeply in the importance of effective and equitable law enforcement, and I want to contribute to making it better. I have witnessed firsthand the harm that can arise when individuals in positions of power allow fear and misconceptions to guide their actions." As the hours passed, a collaborative plan began to take shape. The investigation would continue, delving into not only Officer Brennan's actions, but also exploring the broader systemic issues that might have influenced the incident. Simone would work closely with the department's training division to create and implement new programs focused on bias recognition, cultural sensitivity, and de-escalation techniques. Officer Brennan would be placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. However, Simone was clear in her desire for his career not to end due to this incident. Instead, she suggested that he actively participate in the new training initiatives, using his experience as a cautionary tale and a testament to the potential for personal and professional growth. As days turned into weeks, the investigation evolved and the story that had initially been kept under wraps gained traction in the local media. Public interest surged, increasing the pressure on the Fairfax County Police Department to address not only this particular case, but also to tackle broader issues of racial profiling and police conduct. Simone found herself thrust into the limelight, balancing her regular FBI duties with her new role as a consultant to the police department. She actively participated in community meetings, engaged in panel discussions, and worked relentlessly to bridge the divide between law enforcement and the communities they serve. The process of implementing the new training program was fraught with challenges. Resistance emerged from several corners, with some officers viewing the new initiatives as a direct threat to their profession and long-standing practices. This skepticism was palpable in the early stages, creating a tense atmosphere that threatened to undermine the program's goals. However, amidst this resistance, there were champions of the change. Sergeant Thompson, for example, embraced the opportunity with enthusiasm. His support and active advocacy for the program proved instrumental in gaining broader acceptance within the department. Officer Brennan, who had initially been at the center of controversy, became a crucial part of the program's success. His commitment to confronting his own mistakes and openly sharing his journey of self-improvement had a profound impact on his colleagues. His willingness to be vulnerable and honest about his own biases encouraged many of his fellow officers to examine their attitudes and behaviors more critically. This personal transformation fostered a culture of openness and accountability that was essential for the program's effectiveness. As the weeks turned into months, the positive effects of the program began to manifest. Complaints of racial profiling notably decreased, and community engagement improved significantly. The Fairfax County Police Department's initiative started to attract national attention. Other law enforcement agencies began reaching out to learn from their experience, recognizing the innovative approach as a model for progressive change. For Simone, the work was both challenging and deeply rewarding. She witnessed firsthand the potential for positive change within law enforcement, yet she was acutely aware that this was only the beginning of a much longer journey. The process of change was ongoing, requiring sustained effort and commitment from everyone involved. One crisp autumn evening, nearly 6 months after the initial incident, Simone found herself back in the conference room where it had all begun. The room was now filled with a sense of cautious optimism, a stark contrast to the initial tension. Deputy Chief Malloy, Captain Harding, Sergeant Thompson, and Officer Brennan were present, their expressions reflecting the progress that had been made. Agent Carter, Deputy Chief Malloy, began with a tone of genuine appreciation. "We can't thank you enough for your dedication to this program. The positive changes we've observed in our department and the community speak volumes about the impact of your work." Simone smiled, feeling a profound sense of pride in what they had accomplished together. "It's been a collective effort, Deputy Chief. Every individual in this room, and many others beyond it, have played a vital role in making this initiative a success." Officer Brennan, who had been quietly absorbing the conversation, finally spoke up. "Agent Carter, I want to express my gratitude once more. You had every reason to seek retribution, but instead, you chose to see an opportunity for growth. You've not only transformed my career but my entire life." Simone looked at Officer Brennan with a mixture of admiration and empathy. The man before her was markedly different from the scared, defensive officer who had once confronted her on the side of the road. "Officer Brennan," she said, "your willingness to confront your mistakes and grow from them has been fundamental to the success of this program. You should be immensely proud of the progress you've achieved." As the meeting drew to a close, Simone stepped outside into the crisp, cool evening air. She took a deep breath, reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this pivotal moment. It had been a long and arduous path, but one marked by significant personal and professional growth. She understood that while change could be difficult, it was always achievable when people were willing to confront their shortcomings and work collaboratively toward a common goal. Arriving home, Simone felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The road ahead remained uncertain, but she was confident that with continued effort, understanding, and collaboration, a better future was within reach. This optimism extended not only to the Fairfax County Police Department and the community it served, but to every individual touched by the work they were doing. Simone Carter's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Dinner's ready when you are." "Zoe can't wait to tell you about her science project," she smiled, a warm sense of satisfaction filling her as she gathered her belongings and walked out of the police department. The day's events had been challenging, but they had reignited her sense of purpose. She understood that the journey ahead would be fraught with difficulties, but with dedication, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, and a commitment to understanding, progress was within reach. For Simone Carter, this realization made all the difference. A year had elapsed since that pivotal traffic stop, a moment that had profoundly impacted numerous lives. The sun was dipping below the horizon over the Fairfax County Community Center, casting a soft, golden light over the crowd assembled for the inaugural Community and Law Enforcement Partnership Day. This event represented the culmination of a year's worth of rigorous effort, challenging discussions, and genuine attempts to bridge the divide between law enforcement and the community they served. Dion Carter stood confidently at the podium, surveying the diverse audience before her. The gathering included police officers in uniform, community leaders, residents, and even a few national figures who had come to witness the transformation taking place in Fairfax County. Her family was seated in the front row, Marcus radiating pride, and Zoe, now a year older and wiser, listening intently to her every word. "A year ago," Simone began, her voice strong and resonant, "I stood on the side of a road, handcuffed and frightened, uncertain of what lay ahead. Today I stand before you as a partner, a friend, and a staunch believer in the power of change." She allowed a brief pause for her words to resonate with the audience. What happened that day was not an isolated incident. It was a manifestation of a deeper, systemic issue that extends beyond law enforcement and into the broader fabric of our society. However, what makes our story unique is the way we chose to respond. Simone's gaze settled on Officer Mike Brennan, who was present with his wife, Sarah, and their son, Tommy. He sat upright, his expression clear and resolute. "We had a choice," Simone continued, her voice gaining strength. "We could have let anger and resentment drive us apart, but instead we chose to understand. We chose to grow. We chose to recognize and embrace each other's humanity." Over the past year, the initiative Simone had championed had exceeded all expectations. What had begun as a local project had captured national interest, with police departments from across the country sending representatives to learn from Fairfax County's experience. This journey has not been without its challenges, Simone acknowledged. "We have faced uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our institutions. We have engaged in passionate debates and experienced moments of doubt. Yet, through it all, we have remained steadfast in our commitment to one fundamental principle: that we are stronger together than we are apart." The crowd, reflecting a mosaic of hope and resolve, responded with a wave of applause and cheers. Simone looked out over the assembly, her heart swelling with a profound sense of accomplishment and optimism. The path ahead would undoubtedly continue to test their resolve, but the progress made and the unity achieved stood as a testament to their collective efforts and unwavering dedication. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 4 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. The transformations within the Fairfax County Police Department were both striking and tangible. Complaints of racial profiling had dwindled dramatically, reflecting a significant shift in community perception. Engagement between officers and the community had reached unprecedented levels, with genuine relationships being forged and long-standing barriers of mistrust being dismantled. However, the most profound changes were perhaps those on a personal level. Officer Mike Brennan had emerged as a staunch advocate for police reform, bravely sharing his journey with colleagues and community members. His candor and willingness to confront his past mistakes openly had deeply resonated with many, serving as a testament to the possibility of growth and redemption even after serious missteps. Sergeant Thompson, who was approaching retirement, had discovered a renewed sense of purpose in guiding and mentoring younger officers. His commitment to passing on the hard-earned lessons from the past year was instrumental in shaping the future of the department. For Sergeant Thompson, this role became a means of ensuring that the progress made was not only preserved but also perpetuated. Simone Carter had also experienced significant personal growth. Her work with the Fairfax County Police Department had afforded her a deeper understanding of the complexities inherent in law enforcement, the pressures officers endured, and the potential for systemic change. This newfound perspective enriched her role as an FBI agent and made her a more effective and empathetic advocate for justice. As Simone neared the conclusion of her speech during the celebration of these achievements, she emphasized the importance of continuing the work that had begun. "As we celebrate our progress today," she said, her voice carrying a mix of pride and resolve, "we must also remember that our journey is far from complete. What we have accomplished here in Fairfax County represents just the beginning. We have demonstrated what can be achieved when we approach our differences with openness and empathy. Yet, we must remain dedicated to pursuing justice and equality every day." Simone's gaze swept across the diverse audience before her, individuals of various races and ages, both civilians and officers. Each one of us holds the power to effect change. Every interaction, every conversation, every moment of understanding is a step toward the world we aspire to build. As Simone concluded her speech, the room erupted in a standing ovation. The applause enveloped her, but what left a lasting impression were the individual faces in the crowd, a young black teenager nodding in affirmation, a veteran officer dabbing at a tear, and community leaders extending hands to shake those of the officers beside them. After the ceremony, amidst the mingling and exchange of refreshments, Simone came face to face with Officer Brennan. They exchanged a long, reflective gaze, each acutely aware of the journey they had traversed together. "Agent Carter," Mike said, his voice choked with emotion, "I don't think I ever properly thanked you. You saw potential in me even when I was at my lowest. You gave me a chance to make things right." Simone offered a warm smile and extended her hand for a handshake. "Officer Brennan, the credit belongs to you. You faced your shortcomings with honesty and committed yourself to change. That takes immense courage." As they conversed, Simone observed Zoe chatting excitedly with Tommy Brennan's son. Over the past year, the two had formed a friendship, their innocent camaraderie serving as a poignant reminder of why this work mattered so much. Later that evening, as Simone drove home with her family, a deep sense of contentment enveloped her. The past year had been a journey marked by significant challenges and moments of intense discomfort, but it had also been profoundly transformative. She reflected on the ripple effects of their work in Fairfax County, marveling at how it had sparked a wave of change that extended beyond their community. Their efforts had not only inspired similar initiatives in other towns and cities, but had also ignited crucial conversations and slowly, but surely begun to make a real difference. As they turned into their driveway, Marcus glanced at Simone with a thoughtful smile. "You know," he said, "a year ago when you came home late and talked about that awful traffic stop, I never could have imagined it would lead to all this." Simone chuckled, her laughter infused with a mix of joy and hope. "Isn't it amazing how life can turn our biggest challenges into our greatest opportunities? It's like it has a way of reshaping our struggles into something meaningful." From the back seat, Zoe's voice cut through, curious and hopeful. "Mom, do you think that one day we won't need programs like this anymore? That everyone will just treat each other fairly without needing special programs or efforts?" Simone took a moment to ponder her daughter's question, considering both the idealism and the practicality behind it. "I hope so, sweetheart," she finally replied, her tone soft but resolute. "It might not happen in my lifetime or even in yours, but every step we take towards understanding one another, every barrier we break down, brings us closer to that day. It's a long journey, but it's worth every effort." As they entered their home, Simone felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. She knew the path ahead would be fraught with difficulties and obstacles, but she felt more equipped to face them than ever before. This journey had shown her that change was not only possible but within reach. It demonstrated that bridges could be built between even the most unlikely allies, and that, even in the darkest times, there was potential for growth, understanding, and transformation. The story that began with a single misguided traffic stop had blossomed into a broader movement for change, touching lives and communities across the nation. For Simone Carter, for Mike Brennan, for the Fairfax County Police Department, and communities striving for justice and equality, this was just the beginning. The seeds of change had been sown, and while the road ahead was long, they were forging a path toward a more equitable and understanding future. As we come to the end of this intense and eye-opening story, take a moment to reflect on what we've learned today. The journey of Special Agent Simone Carter not only highlights the challenges faced by those in law enforcement, but also underscores the importance of understanding, empathy, and the fight against discrimination. What stood out to you the most from Simone's story? How has it impacted your perspective? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know one thing you've learned from this video and how you plan to bring it into practice in your own life. If you found this video meaningful, please leave your comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content that inspires and informs. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.